You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Athan Hristodulu.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Greeks Gridiron. I am Athan Hristodulu. It's January 22nd, 2022, and we have ourselves today another double header of playoff games. This time it is the divisional round, and I'm coming at you guys with a double header of playoff predictions for the divisional round. If you have not already, make sure you check out my Rams and Bucks preview. It came out earlier this morning for you guys, and now we are doing the Chiefs and the Bills. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that sub button so you don't miss out on all the videos I got coming your way as we roll through the playoffs. And now let's talk some Kansas City Chiefs and some Buffalo Bills, shall we? So the Bills heading into Kansas City to take on what has turned into a pretty much out of divisional rival here in the Kansas City Chiefs. These teams have met several times here, and it's been very good games pretty much every time these two have gone at it. And I'm really looking forward to this one here because it's starting to feel almost like, you know, you have a great quarterback with Josh Allen, a great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes already has the ring. Allen's chasing his first. They both have really good teams surrounding them, good head coaches and whatnot have you. It's almost, dare I say, starting to feel similar to like that Colts and Patriots rivalry we used to watch between Manning and Brady back in the day. I'm really liking the way this is starting to shape up, and I hope you guys are as well. So let's talk some X factors, the guys in this game that I think need to step up and stand out for their teams for them to secure a victory and move on to the AFC Championship round here. For the Bills, of course, the guy with the massively insane pick that he had last week, the one that made like no sense when you watched it live, and then when you saw the replay, you were like, wow, that is a nice interception. Micah Hyde, man, that guy is such a great safety in the backfield, paired up with Jordan Poyer. They are just one of the best safety tandems in the league. I love what they got going on there. So between those two guys, locking it down over the top, trying to slow down the big play offense that the Kansas City Chiefs love to deploy. You also got the linebacker, Matt Milano, one of the more like underrated guys in the league. He does a great job in pass coverage. He is one of the leaders on that defense, you know, right up in the middle of that team there, doing an excellent job over in Buffalo for them, and somebody that I just don't think gets a lot of love, and I'm sure Buffalo Bills fans would probably agree with me on that one. It does not feel like people really know what Matt Milano does for that defense over there and how good he plays in the middle of the field for them. But of course, on the offensive side, wide receiver Stephon Diggs, the big money wide receiver they brought in to help Josh Allen grow into the beast of a quarterback that he is today. But the standout guy, the guy that I think needs to show up and have another game, because potentially this game is going into some very high scoring numbers, I believe, Josh Allen, the quarterback. I think, you know, it kind of goes without saying at this point, when it comes to these two teams matching up, you're going to need a really aggressive offense to just put up as many points as possible, because you're pretty much just playing keep up with each other between these two teams here. He had 5 touchdowns, 308 yards to the air, 6 rushes for 66 yards on the ground as well. So the guy totaled for over 370 yards of offense on his own. I mean, what more is there to say? This is a quarterback-driven league, and we are having another budding rivalry of two really good quarterbacks that are great quarterbacks at this point in their careers. And you know, Josh Allen, if he's not having a big game against the Chiefs, I just don't know if the Bills can come out of this one successful. Whereas on the flip side for the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, they're big money pass catchers, the guys that, you know, basically move the chains for this team when things are going wrong. Pat Mahomes knows where he can go. Then on the defensive side of the football, you know, Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, you know, the leaders of that defense, and Tyrann Mathieu especially, what a career he has had, and just like the player that he has turned into for this team. Maybe not the best year of his career this year, but I mean, that guy has been a leader and a voice on that team for quite some time now, and I love to see it, because I remember him coming out of college, people thinking he was somewhat of a troubled guy, and that was why he slipped a little bit. I actually really wanted the Colts to go after him because we needed a safety at the time. But regardless, two big faces on that defense stepping up for this team. And then, of course, the linebacker Bolton as well, the rookie. I think, you know, him stepping up and continuing to grow the way he has throughout this season. I think having a really strong divisional round game here against a top flight Bills offense would really help this team out. But ultimately, like I said with the Bills, I think it boils down to the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes needs to have a big game in this one here. Did a great job against the Steelers last week, putting up points. It almost felt like the Bills sent it's almost like these two teams kind of felt like they knew they were going to come meet each other just based off who they were playing. The Bills fired the first shot with their 6 touchdowns there, and no kicking the ball or anything like that. And then the Chiefs come in there, they're putting up 42 points themselves. It almost felt like they just kind of fired a shot at each other, like, all right, see you next week. You better be doing this next week because we can do it as well. Very interesting stuff when you kind of start to connect those dots together there. But I think the quarterbacks for both of these teams, they need to show up and have big games, because if not, the other one might be having a big game, and more than likely is probably going to be having a big game. So they both need to step up, put up some yardage, put up some scores, maybe run one in themselves. I want to see this game cross well into like the 60-point total area. I would love to see something like that. I love defensive football, but I would love to just watch these two guys just duke it out. And, think of like when the Patriots and the Colts played over in, what is the stadium? The RCA Dome from way back in the day. And they were, duking it out for a shot at the Super Bowl, and its final score was 38-34 Colts. I mean, I want to see something like that going into this game. Now, keys to the game, things that I think are important, some of the stuff I'm going to be watching as we go through this game that I think will ultimately decide who comes out the victor in this one here. My first question for this game is whose pass rush can disrupt the quarterback more? Both of these teams boast some of the best pass protection lines in the NFL, and it's not even like an understatement here. The Bills have allowed only 27 sacks on the season for their total second best in the league, whereas the Chiefs, tied for third, are sitting right behind them at 28. So one more sack allowed. Two of the best pass protection offensive lines in the league. This is why they have some of the best quarterbacks in the league as well, because they're just able to wheel and deal and do their things effectively. I mean, it speaks for themselves. Now, when you look at what the defenses do here, the Bills, they had 42 sacks in the year, tied for 11th, and 186 pressures to boot. So not only are they getting after the quarterback and making him uncomfortable, but they're also taking him down to the ground and making them lose some yards. Whereas the Chiefs set at only 31 sacks on the year, and that's ranked 29th. So a little bit of a difference there in just how effective they have been at getting after the quarterback. Chiefs sit at 6th in the league with 178 pressures, so a few pressures behind what the Bills do, but the Bills are a better team when it comes to actually getting to the quarterback and bringing him down to the ground. So with that in mind, can the Chiefs maybe go against how their defense has fared in their pass rushing game and take down this number 2 offensive line to even up the game a little bit here? I do expect the Bills to be aggressive. They have been all year, and they've made quarterbacks feel uncomfortable. I think Mac Jones last week looked very, very uncomfortable against that Bills front, and I know that those Bills are chomping at the bit to knock out the Chiefs and kind of avenge their playoff loss from last year, so to say. Second question that I have for this game is something I'll be watching as well, because I think it does matter in this one here based off of Kansas City's turnovers through the year, is can they protect the football? KC has turned the ball over far more than I think anyone would expect from a team that is a number 2 seed in the playoff bracket here. 25 turnovers on the year, tied for 23rd in the league with a litany of tipped interceptions and just really untimely fumbles. They just had two turnovers last week against Pittsburgh, 1 interception and 1 fumble. That first fumble being what led to the first points of the game. And I'm going to tell you right now, there was no scoring in that first quarter. When Pittsburgh took back that fumble, there was a moment where I was like, hold the phone. Like, are the Steelers about to do something here? But of course, they battled back. The rest was history. At that point, they started going on a run, putting up points left and right. But the turnovers have been there. Now you're facing up against a Bills team that is tied for 3rd in the league with 30 total turnovers this year. One of the most aggressive defenses when it comes to trying to take that football away from you. They came away with 2 picks against the Pats just this past week in their wild card game. So, Kansas City, if you want to come out winners in this one here, you can't be turning the ball over. Patrick Mahomes can't be throwing interceptions. The receivers cannot be popping them up into the air and just letting the defense come away with them, because we have some real ball hawks over there in Buffalo. You got to protect the football. Can't put it on the ground. Can't let it bounce off your hands, because I feel like we've seen the amount of tipped interceptions that I've seen from the Chiefs this year just is like ludicrous to me. It makes no sense. The luck that is involved with that to happen as often as it has. Like, I wish that there was like a way you could statistically like put that into, if you can fit that into numbers, like what are the odds that he would have? I think it's like 8 tipped interceptions this year or something like that. What are the odds of that actually happening? I would love to know. If somebody can put that into a number for me and a percentage, please do. But my last thing and real question for this one, and this one's for the Bills here, and I'm curious to see how they fare in this one, is can this Bills offense dominate KC's surging defense? Now, this defense started out in Kansas City really bad at the beginning of the year, and then about that midpoint, they kind of like flipped the switch, and since then, they've been a pretty good team, and I don't want to say have fallen back at all, but maybe taken like a half step back since that big midseason surge there. The Bills, with how effective that offense has been, they've only gone 3-and-out on 15% of their drives. That's absurd. Tied for second in the league, mind you. Bills did not kick the ball once just this last weekend when they played against the Patriots. So not only are they ever really going 3-and-out and just like letting dead drives happen here and there, it hardly ever happens for Buffalo. You know, they're going through games not even having to punt. Pretty absurd if you ask me how effective this Buffalo Bills offense has become. They've had some really, really bad games like randomly this year, but also they've had some very, very convincing and dominating games on top of that. The Chiefs, though, on defense, something to think about. Like I just mentioned for the Bills, 15% of their offensive drives, 3-and-out. One of the best numbers in the league. The Chiefs' defense has forced 3-and-outs on only 18% of drives, which is actually tied for 28th. So they tend to allow drives to kind of, trickle down, and it takes, maybe a couple of series or two to stop, maybe a few sets of downs before they're actually able to get the stop or ultimately allowing those points or allowing touchdowns or field goals, whatever it may be that they end up allowing. However, like I said, those numbers, they are kind of skewed a bit. They had a really bad start to the year, and they started to surge. And I mean, if you look at the way they handled the Steelers just last week, and I understand it's the Steelers, say what you want, but they are an NFL team, and Pittsburgh had some games where they put up a fair amount of points. The Chiefs' defense didn't allow the offense to score up until the 4:10 mark of the third quarter. So, I mean, up until that point, the only points that came was from the defense. They were literally not letting Pittsburgh do a single thing until pretty much the end of the game when they were like, all right, like we have this in the bag here. We're up, 35-7 at this point? Like, okay, not a big deal. Whatever the score line was when they were getting into that point there. I mean, the defense has looked really good. Again, really bad start. They've looked a lot better at this point. I was hearing some people talk about this, and I kind of agree with the idea that the Chiefs' defense, I don't know if it's as great as it looked at their peak, but I also don't think it's as bad as it was at their worst. They're somewhere in like that median area, in the middle. I don't know where, but I think against this Bills offense, they need to really step up. And the Bills offense themselves, they need to be the team that just played the Patriots last week if they want to win, as opposed to the team that lost to the Jaguars or the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1 if they want to win their football game. Now, let's talk a disadvantage for both of these teams. Something that stands out to me that I think could be a factor and something that may cost this team the game if they cannot improve upon it in this matchup here. The Chiefs, like we talked about, they only forced a 3-and-out on 18% of their drives on defense. Now, one of the worst numbers in the league. Teams have really had no problem throughout the duration of the year moving the football. Chiefs average on defense, 5.9 yards a play. That is 31st in the league. That is one of the worst numbers. Teams that have been able to move consistently and also rip chunk yards at a time. And when you couple that with the fact that Buffalo averages 5.7 yards a play themselves, that's a problem. 10th in the league, they're one of the best at moving the football, and they can just rip you for yards left and right if they get going. This is going to be a tough task for KC's defense. I don't really know if they're going to be up for the task or not. They've played some good teams, but they played the Bills earlier in the year, and result did not end in their favor. And this Bills offense right now looking a lot more like a dominating unit than a team that was struggling against the Jaguars or the Steelers earlier in the year. I'm very curious to see how this Chiefs defense handles them. But I think, the fact that they're allowing so many yards per play, I mean, almost 60 yards a play, that's literally like a guaranteed first down every other play that they're going. If not, it's going to be like every 3 plays. That's a pretty ridiculous number when you put it into perspective like that. For the Bills, It's still the same disadvantage that I had labeled for them last week going against the Patriots. While they have kind of improved upon it a little bit the last few weeks, even dating into like the last couple of weeks of the season itself, the running game is still a concern for me. Only because like I need to keep seeing it to believe it. I feel like I've talked about the Bills running game not being good for so long now, since like last season, even before I started my podcast, when I would just talk to people about the Bills in general. I'm like, the team is great, they just can't really run the football. All offseason, when I started the podcast, I've spent the whole offseason telling you guys they got to improve that running game. They need to beef up the O-line, and I didn't know if Devin Singletary was the guy at that point. But he has definitely started to surge. I will, give him the credit for that. But, I mean, the numbers don't lie. They speak for themselves. Josh Allen was a third of their rushing yards for the year. They they had about, I think it was like 2,200 and some odd yards on the season, and Allen accounted for like 750 of them. Whatever the number is off the top of my head, I don't know, but somewhere around that ballpark. They did find success against New England. That is the fair point to have there. However, New England was also ranked 22nd in the league in yards per game. They're allowing like 120 some odd yards a game. Going up against the Chiefs defense, the Chiefs, they're actually right behind the Patriots, or right above the Patriots, excuse me. They're 21st in the league in yards per game. They were allowing about 117 or so a game. So there is a good matchup for them with the running game in this one, so they have a good opportunity to maybe, eat up about 100 yards or so on the ground and maybe get something going there, force the Chiefs defense to be a little bit more honest and maybe stack the box so that Josh Allen can really start to gash them for some plays. But, I need to keep seeing that consistent running game from them. I like the improvement that I've seen. I just need to keep seeing it, is all. Now, for the wrap-up of the video, my thoughts on the over-under, the spread, who I think is going to win. At the time of this recording, which I'm recording this on Friday night, you guys are seeing this right after noon. It'll be like 12:15 when I put this up for you guys. Chiefs are at -2, Bills +2, over-under sitting at 54. Now, Chiefs -2, maybe. Chiefs, Bills +2, maybe. I like either or, because I think that whoever wins this game is probably going to win by like, I think it comes down to something that close. Like that realistically makes sense for me. It's just a matter of like, who do you think is going to win the game? I think when you're boiling down to this, I don't think I like one or the other really more. It's just a matter of like, who are you picking to win this game is kind of how I look at that. For the over-under sitting at 54, give me the over. That's a high over-under, and give me the over. I expect this game to get crazy. Like I said earlier, I want to see like that 38-34, championship level game where, we have two of the, in my opinion, consistently for the last few years, two of the AFC's top teams that are going to just duke it out again and renew a rivalry after they just played each other earlier in the year. I could see a very high-scoring affair. Ultimately, if the Chiefs' offense was playing a better game the first time these two teams met, I think that total would have been a lot higher when they met initially. I like the over. And for my final score, this is going to be a good game. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be a really good game, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited for this one. I think Josh Allen and the Bills get over the hump this time around. They get a big W. They win 38-36. I like that score line. I want to see those points. I want to see these two quarterbacks carry their teams on their back and on their arm, and I'm really looking forward to this matchup. Again, Bills 38, Chiefs 36. I have the Bills upset over that because, again, the Chiefs are favorites at -2. I take the upset on this one here. I like the Bills +2. So that is my prediction for the game. I appreciate you all for watching. Let me know down below who you guys think in the comment section wins this one. Catch you guys in the next video. Enjoy your divisional round of playoffs. I'll see you all on Monday for some reactions to these 4 games that we got. Have a good rest of your weekend, everyone. I'll catch you later.